On today's episode, I'm really excited to go a little bit picture with you here and introduce you to my design, write, and sell framework. This is something that I've developed that helps you as a creative move from that design phase into creating a professional element that you can add that then you can use to start to sell and create a creative business. So I want to talk about this in the context of a quilt pattern design here. Welcome to A Creative Odyssey. I'm Ryde. I'm a designer, an entrepreneur, and online educator obsessed with all things design, quilting, and creative business. Whether you're a seasoned quilter or you're just starting out, whether you're passionate about design and textiles, or whether you're a creative business geek who loves to nerd out on all the moving parts that go into making a creative business thrive, you are in the right place. I'm excited to share insights from my creative odyssey with you as I navigate design, creativity, and growing an online business on this journey as a creative entrepreneur. Are you ready to explore the possibilities of design and discover the world of creative business? It's time to embark on a creative odyssey. So this framework, this design, write, and sell framework that I've developed, this also forms the basis of my program, Quilt Design Code. And I know that if you're a quilter, maybe you're a beginner quilter, you're really passionate about your new hobby, you might be a more experienced quilter, you're looking for that kind of next level of challenge in your quilting practice or business. You might even be a surface designer and you've seen that power behind the quilting industry in terms of fabric licensing and the potentials that lie there, and you'd like to take a foray into designing your own quilt patterns. Well, this is where I can help. I'm an engineer, I'm a designer, a maker, an entrepreneur. I've taken these paths to really learn the skills to design, write, and sell unique quilt patterns. And this is exactly what underpins that framework that makes up my program, Quilt Design Code, like I mentioned. These three phases, design, write, and sell, these are the core elements that go into creating a thriving creative business, one that you can start as well with your own unique quilt patterns. So what I want to talk about in this episode here today is I want to get deep into the design phase of this. I want to go through that first phase here, that design phase, and in the next couple of episodes, I'm going to be going into the write and sell phases in more details as well. So if you're not already subscribed, now is a great time to do so you don't miss out on any of those upcoming episodes. So let's jump in and take a closer look at that design phase of this design, write, and sell framework. And stick with me to the end because I'll be sharing with you a guide as well so that you can dive deeper into each of these steps as we walk through them. And, some of us like to listen and participate audibly. Others like to read. So there's a guide for you as well. So you'll be able to read this information as well as listen to it as well. All right, first up, let's jump into this design step. All right, let's take a look now here at the design phase. So really this design phase, I kind of break it down into a few steps in itself as well. And step number one in the design phase is really all about seeking unique inspiration. Inspiration is absolutely everywhere, but we want to find something that's unique to you. We want to find inspiration that's not in the same places that everybody else is looking. So stop scrolling on Pinterest, stop scrolling on Instagram or wherever you're looking right now and just start seeking, look around with fresh eyes. Collect things from your house or your garden. We all curate these environments that we live in. We collect things that we love, objects that we've collected on our travels or that we've inherited from other people or that have been gifted to us. Precious things that mean something to us. So why not start with those kinds of things that you can find either around your home or even go outside in your garden and see the kinds of plants and things that you've got out there. Take a walk around your neighborhood. You can even go and visit a gallery or a museum and get some new ideas that way as well. Take some photos while you're at it. Even better is to, in the moment, take a couple of quick sketches as well. So take a little notepad with you and a pencil and just jot down some ideas, some little sketches that you've got there as well along the way. A couple of ideas to spark some thoughts about inspiration and where you can find it. Think about all of the fabrics that you might have in your fabric stash or even clothes in your wardrobe. What kinds of things do you love about those? The details that are on them, the patterns that are in there. Go back through some of your old photos as well. Chances are you've taken photos of places that you've been, something that's caught your eye that you thought, oh, this would be great inspiration. But guess what? You've never really got around to going back to have a look at it. Things that you like to use, like, your favorite stationery, packaging that you've received that you've really enjoyed. Like I mentioned, any kind of household objects that you have, your favorite things, really. Look around you, your favorite books as well, the covers of books, coffee table books, around architecture or gardens or whatever it is that you find lights you up, whatever it is that is your passion and your interest. Next, and this is kind of probably most important in this phase here, this inspiration seeking phase, is to just stop and take some time to look at what you've gathered and ask yourself about it. What is it that catches my eye about this? Is there something about the colors? Is it the shapes? Is there some kind of a particular theme to all of these things that I've gathered together in front of me? And then the next step we're going to move into now as part of this design phase is really to start to sketch this. So in the design phase, we've looked at step number 1, where we have sourced some unique inspiration. And step number 2 of this design phase is really about sketching that inspiration and also iterating it. What do I mean by iterating? Iterating means to repeatedly refine an idea over time. So take an idea, change something small about it, and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Iterate it and refine it over continued sketching. The idea behind this step is to go deeper with the sketch that you've got there, to develop that design idea a little further. This is key in coming up with a unique design. So you take your sketch even further away from that original source of inspiration through this iteration phase. So try sketching something, draw it once, and then draw it again, changing something small about it before you draw it a third time and a fourth time and a fifth time, and then keep going until you find that you come to something really unique. And I will warn you here, this is kind of an addictive process. So if you feel like you just keep going and going, that's fantastic. You can stop whenever you like. What happens when we do this? What happens is that we create more than one idea. And that means that we can stand back and we can kind of compare and contrast, and we can make an informed decision about which one of those designs we might like to take further and develop even further. We have a choice now, we don't have that kind of like one instant spark idea. We have many ideas that we can then choose, okay? If you don't really feel like putting pen or pencil to paper, another way that you can go about this iteration phase or this sketching phase is you can use collage. So you can cut up bits of paper or different shapes that you might like to use, stick those down. You could even do painting. If you're familiar with digital tools like Adobe Illustrator, jump into those and give them a try as well. Any medium that you prefer. This step is really all about taking your idea from that inspiration gathering phase in step 1, iterating it, repeating that sketch and changing one small thing about it until you have at least 5 versions of this idea. Then it's time to move into step 3 of this design phase, and that really looks like evaluating the design that we have in front of us. So now that we have more than one design, we can kind of evaluate what we're looking at. And to do this, we can use a set of guidelines to look objectively at our design. And these are the elements of design. These are color, line, value, texture, shape or form, and space. So we have these 6 elements that we can start to use to help us to evaluate the design that we've got. How is the color helping me to evoke the type of mood that I would like with my design? What kinds of line work have I used in this? Are they thick lines? Are they thin lines? Are they drawing the eye in a certain direction? What kind of value play happens in this? Value is that relative lightness or darkness of a color. And it helps us to create contrast and give the illusion of kind of volume and help to define those shapes. So have a think about those kinds of things, as well as things like texture, which obviously in quilting comes a lot from the fabrics that we're using or even from the stitching that we might put over the top of it as well. Shape and form, have we used more organic shapes or more geometric shapes? And then space, how have we positioned those shapes in our design? And this can refer to, whether you're designing a quilt block itself or whether you're designing an overall quilt top. These are elements that you can use to evaluate those designs that you've come up with in step 2 of this phase here. So step number 3 is about evaluating those designs, considering these elements of design as you look at the designs that you've come up with and seeing which of those are going to allow you to kind of expand and improve and develop your design even further. And then step number 4, this is kind of a bit of a bonus step in this part of the design phase, and that's about thinking about the scale of your design. It's time to take that design and break it into shapes that you can potentially reproduce in textile form. So if you've taken a sketch, you might want to take a photocopy of it or take a photo of it and blow it up on your computer and draw where you might place seam lines or you might want to do that on your tablet or your phone, or even reproduce it digitally in a different program as well, something like Adobe Illustrator, or even, I don't know, Canva, something like that you could use as well. And then kind of just before you go in too much into that digital space, just grab something like a ruler or your tape measure and try and visualize what this size is going to be. You know, is it going to be a 4-inch block size? Is it more like that this design is an overall quilt size? So I'm thinking it's kind of like 60 by 60. Is it a 12-inch block? You know, kind of get a feel for what that size looks like. Grid paper can help you really try to work out these measurements as you start to get into this phase as well. But before we get there, I really want you to think about kind of visualizing what that size might look like and feeling like what the scale of this design might look like at this stage. Reflect on how this design relates back to that starting point where you were gathering your inspiration. Is it really close, or did something else really exciting emerge? And this is a really great point to kind of look back on that design process that we've walked through. We're now at a stage where we've kind of got an idea of the scale of our quilt block or our quilt overall, and we want to start thinking about how that design can then be translated into an eventual quilt pattern. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in the next episode coming out, where I'll be looking at the write phase. So we're looking at design, write, and sell. So the write phase is all about translating your design that we came up with in this part of the process and translating that into the instructions and the diagrams that you're going to need to create your quilt pattern. So just to summarize here, we talked about the design phase of the design, write, and sell framework that I use in all my programs. And the design phase is really about step 1, gathering that unique inspiration. Step 2, sketching and iterating it so that you're developing your design idea beyond just the inspiration that you've gathered. Step 3 is about evaluating that. And then the bonus step 4 is about deciding on a scale that your design is going to become in the real world when it becomes a quilt or a quilt block itself. So those are the steps for the design phase. Like I mentioned, next week I'm going to be jumping into the write phase, and then join me as well as I talk about the selling phase too, when we move into that third phase of the design, write, and sell phase. I know that there has been a lot of information in this episode, and if you would like to see it all written down, then make sure you head to aliryde.com/guide to get your copy of the PDF guide, 7 Steps to Grow a Quilt Pattern Design Business. This includes all of those things that we've talked about in this episode on design as part of the design, write, and sell framework. And of course, that guide also expands on those write and sell elements as well. So do grab your copy, head to aliryde.com/guide, and you can recap all of this information that I've shared with you here in this episode as well. Don't forget, I'm also going to be going deeper on each of these steps over the next few episodes as well. So hit that subscribe button and make sure you don't miss anything in these upcoming episodes. And just to wrap up, I'd really like to invite you to take some action after listening to this episode. And that is to go out and gather some inspiration. You know, get outside, get off the internet, find your own unique inspiration, and then grab a pencil and a piece of paper. That's all you need. You don't need to get complicated. A pencil and a piece of paper is really all you need. Start simple, do a small doodle or a sketch, and just see where it takes you. Start to see if you can start to iterate that design and see, you know, what happens next? What happens if I change this? What happens if I add more color here? What happens if I take this shape away? Success really comes from consistently showing up. So, you know, start today, show up for your creativity, start gathering some inspiration, do a few small sketches as well, and start on that path to becoming a quilt pattern designer today. I'm going to see you again really soon with the next episode. And in the meantime, stay curious and keep creating. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.